YouTuber PewDiePie has gotten himself into more trouble with some of the comments that he's made. More recently, he did a live stream of a video game he was playing, and during that live stream, he decided to use the N-word to insult someone who did something during that game that he did not like. Now, in the video, PewDiePie can be seen getting frustrated with another player and shouting to him, "What a fucking N-word," and he said it fully with the ER at the end, before immediately correcting himself and saying, "Sorry, but what the fuck? What a fucking asshole." Then he also later on continued to kind of make excuses for using that word. The other player did a dick move, and I tried to think of the worst word, and I end up using the N-word. I know that no one watching gives a shit. Okay, so now PewDiePie has gotten in trouble in the past. His videos have gotten demonetized. He was kicked off of YouTube Red, which is the subscription component of YouTube, because of anti-Semitic jokes that he was making. And he was not happy about that, and he seemed a little apologetic and remorseful, but then he pulls this, and he's further getting punished as a result of his latest issue. In fact, Sean Vanneman, who is part of Campo Santo Games, has decided to pull copyright infringements, the video game version of copyright infringements, against PewDiePie in the videos where he uses their video games. Okay, so let me give you some of Sean's tweets. He says, "We're filing a DMCA, that's known as Digital Millennium Copyright Act, takedown of PewDiePie's Firewatch content and any future Campo Santo games." He continues to write, "I'm sick of this child getting more and more chances to make money off of what we make. He's worse than a closeted racist. He's a propagator of despicable garbage that does real damage to the culture around this industry." Now, if you check, you'll see that PewDiePie's full playthrough of Firewatch from 2016, which was viewed 5.7 million times, is currently unavailable. So now video game developers are taking action against him, and it's an interesting case. What do you think?
I do. I think it's very interesting. I met PewDiePie. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I want to let you guys know we're doing a poll because I think that's a super interesting question as to whether they should have done that at Firewatch. So the poll is tytnetwork.com/pie. All apologies to Johnny Pie, and this is for PewDiePie. Should video game developers issue copyright strikes on PewDiePie? Really curious what you guys think. So let me tell you what I think. So I met PewDiePie at one of these YouTube get-togethers, and he seemed like a perfectly lovely guy. Now, did I spend hours and hours with him? No. Do I know him personally? No. Not well enough, right? It was a normal mid-sized conversation, and he's like, but I give you that context because with some folks, you can tell right off the bat that they're a dick. And like if you said to me that, I won't name names, that guy had an issue with using Nazi imagery and saying the N-word, I'd be like, oh, not surprised, right? With PewDiePie, I'm significantly surprised. Now, I think I have a theory as to why. So after Charlottesville, he said he won't be using the Nazi imagery and stuff anymore because he saw, boy, they're real and it's actually happening, right? Which I give him credit for. Like, I don't, and I might be totally wrong about this, but I don't get a sense of bad intent from PewDiePie. What I get a sense of is, we're past this stuff, so I'm joking around about it because it's no big deal. And that's why he says nobody watching is gonna give a shit. Because he assumes that everybody else thinks like he does. I'm really giving him the benefit of the doubt here. You guys make your own call on it. But he assumes, I think, like that they think like he does, which is, you don't actually hate black people, you don't actually hate Jews. So now, since we're past that, I could make anti-Semitic jokes or use the N-word. Now, don't get me wrong, he shouldn't, it isn't right because we are not past it. I mean, earlier today we did a story about a black kid who got hung, or a biracial kid in New Hampshire with a rope, and the kids who hung him wouldn't even rescue him. They left him there to die. Luckily he didn't. So we're not past it. Yeah, we don't have to go anecdotal. We can give you exact statistics about racial disparities in this country, let alone across the world. So and even in the context of this, he said, well, I mean, I said the N-word about him because he's a fucking asshole. But think about that, PewDiePie, right? His real name is Felix, but which everybody knows that's public. Is that Well, then you're using that as a clearly very derogatory word, and it is about black people. So
he knows it's a derogatory word. I mean, he admitted it himself later on in that same stream where he said, I wanted to think of the worst word possible and I used that word. But
I think what he means there is like, that's a word you shouldn't use about people because it's so bad.
Yeah.
But they use it against black people. And so when you say like that's the worst word in that context, you're calling someone that. Look, you could take that to a point where you say, well, then you shouldn't call anyone a dick because that's disparaging to males. Or you shouldn't call them a pussy because that's disparaging to women. And some people do make that argument. I would, and I get that argument, but I ain't pulling anybody's videos off of that argument, right?
Right.
But the N-word is different. Nazi imagery is definitely different, right? So, but it's. Do you pull his videos? Do you put a copyright strike on him?
Well, first of all, yes. If you are a video game developer who finds his behavior and his rhetoric objectionable, then you have every right in the world to do those copyright strikes. And that's what that video game developer decided to do. It's within his right to do it. I actually want to tackle this story from a different angle rather than trying to determine whether or not he's racist. Because I don't know PewDiePie. I don't know what his intentions are. I don't know what goes through his head. And so, whatever, right? But what I do want to mention is, this emergence of people whining and crying because YouTube demonetized some of their videos or some portion of their videos. And look, the reason why that happens is because advertisers all of a sudden realized that there are a bunch of assholes on YouTube that say a bunch of really terrible racist things. And so what happens in a free market? Everyone's always talking about the free market. Free market isn't just like, hey, we get to decide where we work and where we buy stuff. Free market also indicates that companies decide what they do with their money. Are they gonna advertise on content that they find objectionable? No. And so what happened is all of a sudden advertisers are afraid of everything on YouTube, right? And so everyone got demonetized, okay? Everyone's businesses got affected, right? So if you're gonna run around saying the N-word and use Nazi imagery, yeah, some of your videos are gonna get demonetized, homeboy. If you're gonna go to Tucker Carlson and whine and cry and bitch because you lost some money on YouTube for putting out all sorts of racist shit, no shit, of course that's gonna happen. That's how it works. That's how it would work in television. That's how it works in radio. That's how it works online. If you're gonna say objectionable things that companies are uncomfortable with, they're not gonna advertise on your videos.
Yeah, now I understand that actually it screws over all of us because then videos got demonetized for fighting against racism because it talked about racism.
Right,
it screwed over everybody. Hold on, I gotta finish this, okay? So on the other hand, my opinion is, no, don't do a copyright strike and take down the entire video. This is exactly the kind of situation. He's not an unreasonable person. He's not an insane person. We can actually have a conversation and maybe fix it. Maybe get to have the whole country and maybe the YouTube community learn from it instead of shutting down the speech altogether. So I get that the company can do whatever they want, and so it's their call, not my call. But I wouldn't have done it. Instead, I'd engage in a conversation with PewDiePie. I think something fruitful can come out of that.
I disagree. I think that they have all the right in the world. I would have done the same thing. I would have pulled my content from him and his channel.
That's why we have the poll. You guys tell us what you think. TYT membership gets you commercial-free Young Turks. Download it, stream it, podcast it, get all the network shows, and support independent media. TYTnetwork.com/join.